Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bonnie Vandermeulen, Training Coordinator for Wisconsin Facets. On behalf of our entire Wisconsin Facets staff, I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Our webinar today is entitled The Importance of Serving At-Risk Youth and Alternate Educational Programming. Our presenter for today is Sherry Holly. Sherry strives for all students to reach their true potential through earning their high school equivalency diploma. Ms. Holly is currently the GED, HSED, Alternate Education Administrator at the Department of Public Instruction. She has been a cross-categorical special education teacher at Verona Area High School and at Tokay Middle School in Madison Metropolitan School District. Sherry served as the associate principal at the McFarland High School and was the program manager of the ASVAB Career Exploration Program in Chicago. Sherry completed her PhD coursework at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where she was part of a cohort to close the achievement gap. She holds her Master's of Science in Education, Leadership, and Policy Analysis from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and her Bachelor's of Arts in English Literature from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It is my pleasure today to introduce to you Sherry Holly. Sherry?
Hello, everyone. Today I am excited to be with you all. I would like to thank everyone that is here with us today on the behalf of the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to address the importance of serving at-risk students. Can you change the slide, Bonnie, for me?
No, you go ahead and do it. You do it yourself.
Okay, this is my first time and it's not moving, so sorry everyone.
Okay, so you just have to go to your presentation.
Yeah.
And you should be able.
There we go. Okay, let's start this again. So welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time today. Today we're going to talk about the importance of serving at-risk youth. I know we have a lot of different people in the audience, and it's a situation that affects many people. Dropping out of high school culminates a long-term process of disengagement from school and has profound social and economic consequences for students, their families, and their communities. Students who drop out of high school are more likely to be unemployed, to earn less than those who graduate, to be on public assistance, and to end up in prison. And this rings true for us here in Wisconsin. Later we'll look at some statistics from our state to talk about why this is so critical to us as residents of Wisconsin. Today, we're going to look at the definition of what an at-risk youth is. We're going to talk about why educating at-risk youth in Wisconsin is critical, prevention strategies, interventions, alternative education options that lead to a high school diploma, and post-secondary options for students who exit high school without a diploma. I'm excited to share some important definitions, laws, strategies, and programming for at-risk youth. A little bit about myself. I spent most of my time at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I did get my special education license at Edgewood College on a side note. Currently, I'm the alternative education consultant and GED manager at the Department of Public Instruction. I know that Bonnie mentioned a few things about me. You know, I've worked in the Madison, McFarland, Verona area school districts. I also worked in the Middleton school district initially, and that's where my daughters went to schools in the Middleton school district. I also worked for the federal government in Chicago. the ASVAB Career Exploration Program is something that I worked with where I connected with school districts in 56 counties in Illinois and Indiana, providing individualized career exploration. And I am honored and excited to be here with you today. This is an issue that is so important, and I know I get a lot of calls from parents and teachers and even students asking many questions about alternative education. Also on there, I am a retired Air Force officer. I was in the Wisconsin Air National Guard for 30 years, and that was an important part of my life. And so with that, let's keep going. I would like to begin by reviewing the Department of Public Instruction's vision and mission. And let's keep an equity lens in mind as we discuss at-risk youth. Educational equity means that every student has access to the educational resources and rigor they need at the right moment in their education across race, gender, ethnicity, language, disability, sexual orientation, family background, and/or family income. Wisconsin statutes define at-risk youth very specifically: students in grades 5 through 12 who are dropouts or 2 or more of the following: more than 1 year behind in credit, 2 or more years behind in basic skill levels, habitual truants, parents, educated delinquents, and 8th graders who have been retained or are below levels on assessments. Visionary writer H.G. Wells stressed the importance of educating everyone and hinted at the implications of a catastrophe without an educated society. To this end, Wisconsin requires every school district to identify and serve students at risk of not graduating. So why is serving at-risk students so important? Well, every school district in Wisconsin is required to identify and serve students who meet the statutory definition, and we just covered those definitions. Annually, each school board must approve the district plan that establishes how the school district will identify and serve children who meet that definition. And later we'll talk about some specific examples of these plans. Not everyone, there are exceptions, but unless the child is excused or has graduated from high school, any person having control over a child who is between the ages of 6 and 18 shall cause the child to attend school regularly until the end of the term, quarter, or semester of the school year in which the child becomes 18 years of age. And homeschooling is an exception. There are some medical exceptions, but I know this last bullet is a tough one. It's hard to sometimes get students at risk to attend school. I wanted to look at Wisconsin's achievement gap, talking about why it's so important in Wisconsin. This graph shows 4- and 6-year rates. It honors the additional effort many students make to complete their high school education, as well as obligations under special education law and the Wisconsin Constitution. All student groups benefited from additional efforts to graduate, including 9% more African American students who were able to graduate, taking advantage of extra time allowed. However, we need to see that number go up, and here's why. There's a lot of inequity in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has been ranked in the top 5 for least amount of racial integration in a January 2019 study by WalletHub. The study measured the gaps between blacks and whites across 22 key indicators of equality and integration across all the 50 states and the District of Columbia. And I've highlighted for you in blue the 2 areas that really stood out for me. As you can see, the social and economic consequences are real. As Wisconsin's student population becomes increasingly diverse, the persistence of racial disparities in the educational system pose real challenges to opportunity and economic progress. I'm not sure how this makes you feel, but reading and hearing about these statistics on various news outlets puts a pit in my stomach and makes me want a call to action because I know we can do better. So I just wanted to have everyone out there listening to do a reflection. I'd like you to think of a student who is at risk, vulnerable, or disengaged. I'll give you a minute or a moment to think of a student. Could be a current student. It could be somebody that you had in the past. What factors led to the student becoming at risk or disengaged? And what programs or supports are in place that are successfully supporting that student or successfully supported that student? And what are or were the barriers that get in the way of that at-risk student being successful? If you're from a school district, has your school district done a needs assessment? Do you know who your at-risk students are? What programs do you have in place that are successful? Where are the gaps in your programming? One of the things that happens here in my job at the Department of Public Instruction is that when students who did not successfully graduate go into an HSED program, they have to write a letter asking for their high school diploma as like a capstone project to their HSED. And many of them tell their educational journeys. There's a lot of reasons why students are at risk. Sometimes they became parents while they were in high school. Sometimes they were moved around a lot. There's so many students that have so many reasons why they get disengaged. So we're going to keep going now. So what can we do? What are the pathways and alternatives to graduation? What are the alternative education programs that are out there? Prevention strategies and interventions to support at-risk students? And what are some re-engagement strategies to support students that we are trying to get back into our schools? This is what we're going to talk about in the next couple minutes. I mentioned that districts are required to have an at-risk plan. So I thought I would kind of give you a visual. Here's an example of a district-wide strategy on the left side, and on the right side, individual at-risk plans. So on the left, the district plan could be a three-tiered program of support, such as RTI or multi-tiered levels of support, possibly positive behavior intervention. But to begin, there should be a tier 1 that kind of addresses the whole entire student population, and tier 2 would be the targeted small group instruction, and then tier 3 are the intensive individual interventions. And then on the right, the individual plans. Ideally, students will be flagged in your student information system, and an individual plan is in place and reviewed often. It is important that the student is followed and tracked, especially during transitions to different grade levels. Many students transition to different school districts, so it's really important. Some examples of an individual plan would align with why that student's at risk. If you have a student who has attendance issues, you would want an attendance intervention. If the student is struggling in a specific core subject area, possibly a summer school or a pull-out program might be a good intervention. This is not an exhaustive list, obviously. There are several prevention, intervention, and re-engagement strategies that work together to provide wraparound support for at-risk students. And here are some examples of prevention strategies. Many districts for career exploration and planning use Zello or career cruising, having comprehensive school counseling programs, programs within your school to engage students hands-on, positive behavior intervention we've mentioned a couple times. There are many ways to put preventive strategies in place. At the Department of Public Instruction, I wanted to plug some programming that we have that's available for free. I encourage everyone to subscribe to our newsletter. You can It's called DPI Connect Ed. Also, we have trauma sensitive schools online professional development and other mental health modules available. We also have resiliency programs and there's a school-based mental health grant. Many districts were granted up to $75,000 for mental health services to screen and provide interventions. There is a 2021 application on our website that schools can use to apply for grants for the upcoming 2021 school year. LGBTQ plus, the Dane County Youth Assessment and Wisconsin Youth Risk Survey showed that LGBTQ youth have higher rates of anxiety, depression, suicide attempts, and other mental health disparities. These youth also report feeling less connected to school, including not having trusted people that they can talk to while there. In order to mitigate some of these factors, we have resources available to schools to help support this group. Another area that's uncomfortable to talk about at times is the human trafficking. Traffickers have complex criminal organizations in place to deceive youth into increasingly harmful situations and may exploit youth through force, fraud, abuse of power, control, or violence. Students who are homeless, runaway, or living in out-of-home care placements are especially vulnerable through those students of all backgrounds have been involved. And we have some resources available for educators on recognizing and responding to child sex trafficking. Those are online modules as well. In addition, we have great information about building resiliency in youth. That is critical for students who are at risk. Promoting positive social connections between staff and students, among students, and between schools and home, nurturing positive qualities such as empathy, optimism, forgiveness, and then giving students an opportunity to use those, avoiding focusing on failure and negative behavior. There's information about restorative justice. So again, check out those tools, and also a critical component in educating at-risk youth is social and emotional learning. And that's the process which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, achieve positive goals. And also it's important for empathy and making responsible decisions. So I just wanted to plug some of our free opportunities for prevention strategies. There are several re-engagement strategies. Many times it is easier to re-engage at-risk students in an alternative program or school with one of these strategies. There's many more strategies out there than what I have listed, but for students who are credit deficient, or struggling to find school relevant, many of these programs offer a pathway to re-engage. So let's talk about what alternative education is. Wisconsin statutes define alternative education as an instructional program approved by the school board that utilizes successful, alternative, or adaptive school structures and teaching techniques that is incorporated into existing traditional classrooms or regularly scheduled curricular programs, or that is offered in a place of regularly scheduled curricular programs. Alternative education program does not include a private school or home-based private educational program. So we have program versus school. A school will have between 30 and 250 pupils and a separate administrator or teacher in charge of the school. And an alternative program can be on-site or off-site, and it is operated by the school district, and students remain connected for purposes of enrollment, testing, school performance, and reporting. Many programs might look like a resource room, a separate room for additional interventions such as study skills or individual instruction. Some alternative programs are school within a school, sometimes called SBA, a school-based alternative. There's pull-out programs. Sometimes student is removed from the traditional school setting to attend in either an on-site or off-site program. Sometimes those off-site programs can look like a storefront or a community center or a former school. Before I get into the what our graduation requirements are, there's many other programs, alternative programs, and we'll touch on a couple more of them, but just know that they look very different in many different districts. And so it's an opportunity for schools to get creative, whether you offer a GED Option 2 program or students attend a residential program such as Challenge Academy. Those are all considered alternative programs. So Wisconsin requires students to have at least 15 credits, and they recommend 8 electives. Sometimes this is surprising. For some people, school districts can require 23 or even more. I know of school districts that require 26 credits to graduate, plus the citizenship test. But sometimes in an alternative program, you could offer a diploma using the minimum of the 15 credits, but that would have to be approved by the school board. So there are different pathways, like we mentioned, to a diploma. Students who are 17 and older are able to take GED tests to supplant core curriculum requirements. These alternative pathways, along with prevention, intervention, and re-engagement strategies, work together to provide wraparound support for at-risk students. The goal is for the student to be able to reach a high school credential, ideally through receiving a high school diploma, but increasingly we're seeing students choose to do a high school equivalency diploma. The different pathways, if you have a special education student, they might have an IEP. The high school equivalency diploma can be achieved in many different ways. There's the competency-based curriculum for students that aren't able to be successful for whatever reason in the regular education curriculum. Sometimes students who are credit deficient have gaps along the way in their education and they're just not able to do an algebra, for example. The GED Option 2, that is a program where students, if they're credit deficient in one of the core areas, are able to supplant a GED test in place of that class in order to get the credit and still receive the high school diploma. Students can take just one GED test or all 4. The 11815 contract is a high school equivalency diploma. It's an agreement with the school district and a technical college, and students will take the GED test at the technical college. and the school district has to pay and is responsible for transporting that student. Currently, it's 12 something an hour for that service. There's also contracts between high schools and community-based organizations. Um, Youth also in correctional facilities are sometimes working on their GED, or they might be doing competency-based curriculum. Students enrolled at the Challenge Academy are also working on high school equivalency diploma, and some, not all students that are part of Job Corps work on their HSED. So these are options for students who do not earn their high school credential and they end up leaving high school before they get a diploma. In Wisconsin, we have several pathways for students to be able to get their high school credential. Wisconsin Administrative Code PI 5 guides the eligibility and definitions of the high school equivalency diploma programming. Post-secondary students must first have an initial counseling session with an assessment center, usually at a technical college or community-based organization, and that will determine their pathway. They will give them an assessment to find out their reading level and decide what is the best route. The 504 is basically just a GED with the civics test. The 505 is when a student is passing the GED test, but then they do additional requirements such as the health class, and we will accept middle or high school 0.5 credit of health to apply to an HSED. They also take career and employment skills coursework. A 506 is for a high school diploma based on high school credits, and in that case, you have to make sure that the student has earned back on that slide that I showed you. They have to with the high school requirements, they have to show you those that they've earned those skills. Also, if a student is doing a post-secondary education and they are working towards classes. It could be towards a certification of some sort. Those credits can be looked at. Um, Students who come to this country and have earned a diploma or degree from another country, as long as they can fluently speak English, they also can receive an HSED. And then finally, one of our most popular programs is the 509. And that is where students can take competency-based coursework along with GED tests to earn their high school equivalency diploma. And this is a good option. Say you have a student who can pass all the GED tests but math. Maybe they take math as a competency course, and then they earn their HSCD that way. So it's kind of a lot, and we're fortunate because we do have these options. It allows for a lot of flexibility for someone who did drop out of high school. I wanted to take a moment to share a few feature a few alternative schools programs in Wisconsin that I've thought were model programs. The first one is a Rock River Charter School in Janesville. They have a GED pass rate of 97%, and they use a time card. So students in this program, they have to do a minimum of 15 hours a week. They show up at school, they punch the time clock, put their time card up, and if they get there late, they have to stay there late to get their time in. They offer one of the options they have is a CPR certification for students for health credit. They have 300 students a year go through, and they also offer youth options. So I know, for example, a student could be getting their CNA license. through the technical college while they're in this program. They have both a GED Option 2 program, and then they also have a competency-based program. And for students who are still working on getting their reading levels high enough to take the GED test, they have some online programming for that. Another school I'd like to feature is the North Central Technical College Alternative High School, NTC Alternative High School. They are off-site from the Wausau School District, adjacent to the NTC Technical College, and this is a very successful, long-standing program school that's lasted several years. On our website, I did do a podcast interview with the stakeholders that included the pupil services director from Wausau, the teachers and leaders at the school, the dean at NTC Technical College. All the students that attend this alternative high school end up with college credit from NTC. They also have a GED Option 2 program as well as a competency-based program. And you can check out their Facebook page. Finally, one more program. Sometimes people might think this is like a last chance option, the Wisconsin Challenge Academy, but it is a very good program. If you ever get a chance to go to one of their graduation ceremonies, please go. It is exciting, and you'll see how proud these students are who have graduated from this. It's a residential program committed to improving outcomes for 16 to 18-year-olds. They focus on high school equivalency diploma preparation. So half of their day is in the classroom. They are willing to work with school districts. So if your school district has a graduation requirement that might be a portfolio or something, they're willing to work with the school to make sure the student can complete that while they're attending Challenge Academy. If they pass all the GED tests, they will earn their high school equivalency diploma. Many school districts have also approved for these students attending the Challenge Academy to also receive a regular high school diploma. It varies from school district to school district, but I'm telling you, when these guys graduate, if they complete this program and pass all the tests, many of them are going on to careers, and there's also a post-residential phase where they have a mentor that's following up with them, and they do a lot of community service and character development. So it's just another model program out there. So this afternoon, I'm encouraging you to accept the challenge of setting up or engaging at-risk youth in your community, in your school district. Think about how you can reach out and engage them. Decide where to target your resources based on your needs. Focus on pathways that will lead to your at-risk students' graduation, and decide how you can best maximize student engagement and participation. I know this has not been an exhaustive list of the possibilities, but hopefully it's enough to get the wheels spinning in your head. I want to thank you for your time, and I am always available. I have my my email listed here and my phone number. If you want to talk to me offline about a specific situation or some questions, feel free to do so. But yeah, we can continue this discussion. That's all I have today.
Okay, I do have some questions for you. Sherry, are you ready for those?
Yes.
Okay, so one of our participants asked, how can you compare and contrast specifically the main differences between an HSED and a regular GED?
Well, let me just make sure I'm understanding the question. How can you compare and contrast an HSCD with a regular GED?
Yeah, so like this person
So,
is saying that, some of the things you discussed refers to what you
mhm.
call the GED and other things talked about the HSED. Is there a
Right.
difference? Are they used interchangeably?
Yeah, so the GED, the students who get the GED don't have to have the half credit of health. They don't have to have the career um, the career exploration and employability skills. So I'm sorry, career awareness and employability skills. It many there are many people that do the GED and then they upgrade to the HSED. The HSED can look so different. There's so many different programs be, for the high school equivalency diploma, so those vary. They're very individualized. In a way, it's having a special education background. I really appreciate the fact that these can be individualized for at-risk students because, as many people know, not everybody fits into the same size program. So you're trying to put a circle in a square. Many students in their school districts struggle with the programming. So it's nice to have some alternatives.
Okay, thank you. So I guess to follow that question up, if a person earns an HSED, is there ever a way for that person to get what you would know as a high school diploma, period? Can they go back to a school to do that or
Um,
online? Is
well,
that an option?
I'm not sure, it might be redundant to do that because, well, it depends. If you do an HSED in these various ways, most post-secondary institutions will recognize that, especially if you if you took GED tests and they can see your GED score on your transcript. That's uh, helpful, but the HSCD is recognized by most employers, all employers in Wisconsin, and the GED is pretty universal internationally. Um, so if students are going to a technical college or community college, that's not a problem with the HSED. If a
Okay.
student is applying for a four-year college, it depends on the school. Some schools will say, well, I'd like you to do a semester at a technical college so I can see how your grade point average is before they'll accept them into a four-year, like, University of Wisconsin school.
Sure. So another question for you. Who in the public schools should be that person who is aware of all of these HSED program options if a school doesn't have, quote, an at-risk teacher?
Well, the director of pupil services, school counselors, principals, yeah,
Okay, and then
superintendent.
one other question for you that is sort of tangentially related, and that's you had mentioned that several people who have IEPs are engaged, could be engaged in this process. What if a child is considered at risk because they have an IEP due to disabilities, but are also gifted? Um, are they in this category? Would they be
They could
interested?
be.
Yeah, and how do we attend to that in the schools?
Well, a student who has an IEP can still be an alternative education program or school, and their IEP would still need to be addressed. The goals of the IEP would still be enforced. However, they might benefit from an alternative program. Many alternative programs, especially if they can, if they're gifted and talented and also have an IEP for whatever reason, may benefit from taking regular ed courses or even courses at a technical college, while still maintaining a smaller environment. That comes to mind.
Okay.
Some students thrive in a smaller classroom
Okay.
model.
I do have an FYI from one of our participants who is a DPI person as well, and it says an HSED or GED won't terminate a special education student rights to a free appropriate public education or FAPE, while a regular diploma does end their right to FAPE. A student with an IDE or an IEP who is not 21 and has a GED or an HSED can return to the school district and continue to receive FAPE. So that would be a good
Excellent. Yeah, yeah.
a good point for those of you who have those questions about our kids with IEPs in the school. So thank you very much for that clarification and the FYI. So I don't have any other questions at this time. Sherry, is there sort of a closing statement you'd like to make?
No, just I want to thank everybody for their time. This is an area I'm passionate about. There are so many students who will benefit from alternative education programming, and there's so many stories out there of students that are in our schools that don't necessarily have a relationship or they get lost. So I encourage everybody to reach out and find those students that um, need additional support and try to build relationships with them or get them connected. Again, I'm available for questions. You can give me a call or email me if something ever comes up in the future.
Okay, well, Sherry, thank you so very much for your presentation today. I know that I learned quite a bit, and I'm sure those in attendance today did as well. This concludes our webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. Please be reminded that Wisconsin Facets has over 80 scheduled trainings and webinars for the year 2020. Please check our website calendar and register for any of those upcoming trainings that you may be interested in. And please watch for the short evaluation that will be coming to you after today's live webinar. Again, thank you to Sherry for your presentation today, and thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.